derive eyes from those two dots, and you could derive a mouth from that line, then anything with two dots and one line, you could basically call that as a face. You could easily imagine cars as faces because they have lamps as those two dots, and they have the bumper as the line. You could also imagine electrical sockets as a face because it has that general two dots, although maybe it lacks the one line, but you could easily make that up by the line in the bottom of the socket or whatever. So basically it's easy to derive things from their abstraction. So here we come to a very interesting point. The abstraction of sexual subjects in the video, what are they? They're precisely dots, precisely pixels, precisely square objects without any limbs, without any face. And basically they are the utmost simple abstraction. They're the utmost abstract figure you can get from sexual subjects. And what do they signify? Here I would claim that they signify nothing but the minimum signifier of a countable object. So here we have a face as two dots, one line, and on the other hand we have sexual subjects as countable nouns, as countable objects. So if you can derive anything from two dots, one line as a face, what does it mean? Exactly, it means that you could derive anything sexual, any sexual subject from a square pixel. Now that raises a lot of interesting questions. Now, basically, our notion of subjective sexuality here is, first of all, a lot more abstract than actually our notion of a face even. So you don't have to have a face to have sex. And there are a lot of bizarre things about this. You don't even have to have any formal body as such to be a sexual subject. You could be anything as long as it's countable. Well, you can't really. Well, we haven't come to the imagination of having sex as air, for example. No, I don't think we've come to that realization just yet. But as stones, as chairs, I think we have actually come to that realization in a way. And how did we come to that? How did we ever come to take countable nouns as sexual subjects? First of all, I'd like to trace back a little bit of the history of since when do we take digital dots as our signifiers, as it were? The answer came to me right away, actually. Probably since the time, well, not actually probably, but I think really it is since the time of radars. Radars, they scan animate objects as present there. So animate objects, which means, us sentient beings, as digital dots. So since the time of radars, we are already associating ourselves with digital dots. Maybe it's our planes, but the basic thing is it's another subject. It's another subject. So we may want to take this a little bit further. So as to to shed the digital part and maintain the minimum dot part. And we can go pretty far actually, since the very early times of military, the very early times of war times, you can already envision people actually sketching out on dirt with sticks about their military tactics. They sketch out on dirt, they put a line, they mark an X, they mark dots here. Hey, here's the subjects, here's us, and here are the enemy, here's us, and then this is what we'll do. They sketch out lines and so on. Yeah, so it's all fine and good there. We could always think of ourselves as dots. But these are all in the context of purely military statistical needs. We don't, if in those times of radar, for example, we don't think of actually using these dots and crashing them together to have sex on the screen, And also for the times when we sketch out military stuff sketch out ourselves as dots on the ground, we don't really can't say we don't really use those dots to imagine sexual activities. If we want to imagine sexual activities, then we actually bothered to add limbs to them, for example. Yeah, so that means we still needed limbs, we still needed a humanoid body to have sex. But we see now with this video, Could It Be, especially, I think it's a wonderful example. We see now that we no longer need, we don't even need a humanoid body anymore. Even a pixel will suffice it. Now, since when are these pixels, when do these pixels suffice a subjective experience? Video games, as we see, take these pixels and take these avatars, now you call them, take these avatars, take these digital characters, and make us engage fully to control them and to have fun with them, to make them reach the end, for example, to make Mario save his princess. And yeah, but the curious fundamental notion of video games is basically that they evolve right out of these war simulations, as if you all know, they're like Pong, for example, or the early war games. They all come out of cybernetic research and military simulations in the ages of World War II and post World War II, and they eventually became video games. So here we have a very interesting logic. First of all, we think of ourselves in intimate relationships as humanoid figures, as stick figures, possibly, like we draw people as stick figures, and then we take it to a military context, and then we have, okay, let's forget the limbs, let's forget the head, let's just draw the dots. We only need the dots to achieve a certain goal, for example, and then video game sets in and then says that, hey, we can achieve this certain goal, and this certain goal does not have to be a real political war context. It could be a fun context. And then now we can take these pixels that may not be humanoid as purely subjective signifiers. And then, of course, later, maybe about 3 hours later, I'm guessing, that people started thinking about using these not only as adventure or war games, but also as sexual signifiers. So, yeah, here we have a very interesting logic that actually war technologies and video games shape ourselves to begin to think in other ways about our own body, begin to use avatars as tools of having fun. Of course, now we use avatars all the time, perhaps more than we use our actual body for social interaction now with the advent of Web 2.0 and then the social web, social media, and so on. But the very interesting here is that technology makes us think differently about our bodies. And then that is, first of all, the visual part. And then we can also look at this video, at the Could It Be video, in the audio part, in the songs part, in the lyrics part, in the voice part. Now, if you're familiar with psychoanalysis, you're gonna know that actually the role of the voice has actually a role in actually giving a life to our body, to even our physical entity. When we learn to speak, we actually engage in this certain symbolic world as already a certain avatar, we could call it that. So right now